Page 134, Chapter 6, The Baddest Witch in the World. When the morning kindergarten cut jack-o'-lanterns from orange paper and pasted them on the windows so that the light shone through the eye and mouth holes, Ramona knew that at last Halloween was not far away. Next to Christmas and her birthday, Ramona liked Halloween best. She liked dressing up and going trick-or-treating after dark with Beezus. She liked those nights when the bare branches of trees waved against the street lights and the world was a ghostly place. Ramona liked scaring people, and she liked the shivery feeling of being scared herself. Ramona had always enjoyed going to school with her mother to watch the boys and girls of Glenwood's school parade on the playground in their Halloween costumes. Afterward, she used to eat a donut and drink a paper cup of apple juice if there happened to be some left over. This year, after years of sitting on the benches with mothers and little brothers and sisters, Ramona was finally going to get to wear a costume and march around and around the playground. This year, she had a donut and apple juice coming to her. "Mama, did you buy my mask?" Ramona asked every day when she came home from school. "Not today, dear," Mrs. Quimby answered. "Don't pester. I'll get it the next time I go down to the shopping center." Ramona, who did not mean to pester her mother, could not see why grown-ups had to be so slow. "Make it a bad mask, Mama," she said. "I want to be the baddest witch in the whole world." "You mean the worst witch," Beezus said, whenever she happened to overhear this conversation. "I do not," contradicted Ramona. "I mean the baddest witch." Baddest witch sounded much scarier than worst witch, and Ramona did enjoy stories about bad witches. The badder, the better. She had no patience with books about good witches, because witches were supposed to be bad. Ramona had chosen to be a witch for that very reason. Then, one day when Ramona came home from school, she found 2 paper bags on the foot of her bed. One contained black material and a pattern for a witch costume. The picture on the pattern showed the witch's hat pointed like the letter A. Ramona reached into the second bag and pulled out a rubber witch mask, so scary that she quickly dropped it on the bed because she was not sure she even wanted to touch it. The flabby thing was the grayish-green color of mold and had stringy hair, a hooked nose, snaggle teeth, and a wart on its nose. Its empty eyes seemed to stare at Ramona with a look of evil. The face was so ghastly that Ramona had to remind herself that it was only a rubber mask from the dime store before she could summon enough courage to pick it up and slip it over her head. Ramona peeked cautiously in the mirror, backed away, and then gathered her courage for a longer look. "That's really me in there," she told herself, and felt better. She ran off to show her mother and discovered that she felt very brave when she was inside the mask and did not have to look at it. "I'm the baddest witch in the world," she shouted, her voice muffled by the mask, and was delighted when her mother was so frightened she dropped her sewing. Ramona waited for Beezus and her father to come home, so she could put on her mask and jump out and scare them. But that night, before she went to bed, She rolled up the mask and hid it behind a cushion of the couch in the living room. "What are you doing that for?" asked Beezus, who had nothing to be afraid of. She was planning to be a princess and wear a narrow pink mask. "Because I want to," answered Ramona, who did not care to sleep in the same room with that ghastly, leering face. Afterward, when Ramona wanted to frighten herself, she would lift the cushion for a quick glimpse of her scary mask before she clapped the pillow over it again. Scaring herself was such fun. When Ramona's costume was finished and the day of the Halloween parade arrived, the morning kindergarten had trouble sitting still for seat work. They wiggled so much while resting on their mats that Miss Binny had to wait a long time before she found someone quiet enough to be the wake-up fairy. When kindergarten was finally dismissed, the whole class forgot the rules and went stampeding out the door. At home, Ramona ate only the soft part of her tuna fish sandwich because her mother insisted she could not go to the Halloween parade on an empty stomach. She wadded the crusts into her paper napkin and hid them beneath the edge of her plate before she ran to her room to put on her long black dress, her cape, her mask, and her pointed witch hat held on by an elastic under her chin. Ramona had doubts about that elastic. None of the witches whom she met in books seemed to have elastic under their chin, but today she was too happy and excited to bother to make a fuss. "See, Mama," she cried, "I'm the baddest witch in the world." Mrs. Quimby smiled at Ramona, patted her through the long black dress, and said affectionately, "Sometimes I think you are." "Come on, Mama, let's go to the Halloween parade." Ramona had waited so long that she did not see how she could wait another 5 minutes. "I told Howie's mother we would wait for them," said Mrs. Quimby. "Mama, did you have to?" protested Ramona, running to the front window to watch for Howie. Fortunately, Mrs. Kemp and Willa Jean were already approaching with Howie, dressed in a black cat costume, lagging along behind, holding the end of his tail in one hand. Willa Jean, in her stroller, was wearing a buck-toothed rabbit mask. Ramona could not wait. She burst out the front door, yelling through her mask. "Yeah, yeah! I'm the baddest witch in the world. Hurry, Howie, I'm going to get you, Howie." Howie walked stolidly along, lugging his tail, so Ramona ran out to meet him. He was not wearing a mask, but instead had pipe cleaners Scotch taped to his face for whiskers. "I'm the baddest witch in the world," Ramona informed him, "and you can be my cat." "I don't want to be your cat," said Howie. "I don't want to be a cat at all." "Why not, Howie?" asked Mrs. Quimby, who had joined Ramona and the Kemps. "I think you make a very nice cat." "My tail is busted," complained Howie. "I don't want to be a cat with a busted tail." Mrs. Kemp sighed. "Now, Howie, if you'll just hold up the end of your tail, nobody will notice." Then she said to Mrs. Quimby, "I promised him a pirate costume, but his older sister was sick, and while I was taking her temperature, Willa Jean crawled into a cupboard and managed to dump a whole quart of salad oil all over the kitchen floor. If you've ever had to clean oil off a floor, you know what I went through. And then Howie went into the bathroom and climbed up. Yes, dear, I understand you wanted to help to get a sponge, and he accidentally knelt on a tube of toothpaste that someone had left the top off of. Now, Howie, I didn't say you left the top off, and toothpaste squirted all over the bathroom, and there was another mess to clean up. Well, I finally had to drag his sister's old cat costume out of a drawer, and when he put it on, we discovered the wire in the tail was broken, but there wasn't time to rip it apart and put in new wire. You have a handsome set of whiskers, said Mrs. Quimby, trying to coax Howie to look on the bright side. Scotch tape itches me, said Howie. Ramona could see that Howie was not going to be any fun at all, even on Halloween. Never mind, she would have fun all by herself. I'm the baddest witch in the world, she sang in her muffled voice, skipping with both feet. I'm the baddest witch in the world. And when they were in sight of the playground, Ramona saw that it was already swarming with both the morning and the afternoon kindergartners in their Halloween costumes. Poor Miss Binny, dressed like Mother Goose, now had the responsibility of 68 boys and girls. Run along, Ramona, said Mrs. Quimby, when they had crossed the street. Howie's mother and I will go around to the big playground and try to find a seat on a bench before they're all taken.